The words cut through me like shards of glass while I was in the hotel lobby, clad in my tailored navy suit. "Get this beggar out," my father bellowed, drawing everyone's attention. The security guard's hand lingered near my elbow, hesitant to make contact, and embarrassment flickered across his face. I saw my mother quickly avert her gaze, unwilling to meet my eyes, while my sister Victoria wore that familiar smirk of victory. "My name is Sylvia Leo, I'm 35, and this is how I transformed the pain of being disinvited into a financial awakening." I shouldn't have been shocked by the betrayal. For years, I had been the family's financial lifeline, the difficult yet successful daughter relied upon for everything from home repairs to lavish vacations, under the pretense that I was investing in my family. What they didn't realize as they celebrated in the grand ballroom was that I truly had been. Everything for their exclusive event was funded through my LLC, from the venue to the catered meals, all paid for by my business account. They believed it came from my father's retirement fund, a falsehood he perpetuated to maintain his facade as the family patriarch. In reality, his retirement had been a modest pension barely covering their monthly expenses. I didn't scream or make a scene as I walked away. I simply held my head high, maintained eye contact with the security guard, and made my way to the parking garage, my mind already strategizing my next moves. Once I reached my car, I allowed my hands to tremble slightly as I opened my banking app. My financial revelations read $7,200 for banquet catering cancelled, $12,000 for Victoria's honeymoon flights revoked, $4,800 for my mother's spa weekend terminated, and $52,000 in beach condo monthly payments marked FOZN. As I pulled into my driveway 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed incessantly. First my parents, then my sister, followed by unfamiliar numbers. A loud knocking at my front door sent my heart racing. Peering through the peephole, I spotted Victoria's husband, Jared, visibly upset. I quietly locked the deadbolt and retrieved the thick folder labeled Contingency I had prepared 3 years ago. "You need to fix this right now," he shouted through the door, clearly agitated. "They just cancelled our food, the hotel won't release the rooms, and our honeymoon tickets got voided while we were literally checking in online." Leaning against the doorframe, I replied calmly, "Strange, sounds like someone didn't check who was actually making those payments." His eyes widened with realization as he processed my words. "You did this because they kicked you out." "No," I said, feeling oddly collected. "I did this because they forgot a crucial rule. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, especially when that hand holds all the receipts." He tried to look past me into my apartment for signs of regret, but I had long moved past that emotion. Holding up the folder filled with documents, I displayed the signed contracts listing my LLC as the financial sponsor, cancellation clauses with my signature as the sole authority, and payment reversals initiated the moment of their betrayal. I had warned them 3 years ago that treating me like a bank meant I'd start acting like one. "You're punishing the whole family," he hissed quietly as a neighbor walked by. A smile crept onto my lips. "No, I'm protecting my investments and cutting my losses." At that, his expression darkened. "They're your parents." My response was simple. "They called me a beggar in front of 40 people." He had no comeback for that, spinning on his heel and muttering about lawyers. The truth about financial hierarchies is that you cannot rise above the one who holds the records, contracts, and backup drives. After closing the door behind him, I walked into my home office, placed the folder down, and opened a new one labeled Inheritance Audit Phase 2. By morning, my inbox was flooded with 32 new messages, some pleading, others aggressive, all ringing with panic. My mother wrote, "We didn't mean what we said. Emotions were high. Can we talk?" My father sent a forwarded invoice from the venue, unpaid and demanding immediate payment. My favorite was a screenshot from a family group thread I'd been removed from years ago, where my cousin declared, "Sylvia's always been sensitive. She'll come crawling back. She always does." I laughed out loud in my empty kitchen before replying to the entire group. "Just a reminder. I own the crawl space and I've changed all the locks." No one responded. That afternoon, I received an unexpected message from Franklin, my parents' accountant, requesting a meeting to discuss some irregularities he'd noted. Specifically, he pointed out that payments for their cherished beach condo had not been made from their trust as claimed, but rather from an LLC he couldn't identify. My parents had given him my email when I first started handling their taxes, and he kept it. When we spoke, I confirmed his suspicions and then inquired whether my parents had declared that condo as their asset in annual filings. The silence prolonged until he admitted, "They've claimed it as an inheritance gift from a private family investor, with no documentation provided. They hadn't just been ungrateful. They had committed fraud by using my generosity to build equity in a property still owned by my company." Franklin asked if I would sign a declaration for tax records. "Absolutely," I replied, after calling my lawyer to discuss the fastest way to serve them papers that would render that condo and all unpaid debts legally unattainable. In less than 48 hours, my attorney Tiffany confirmed the next steps. This was no longer about family. It was about fraud. The following day, I visited Tiffany's office, where sleek furniture complemented her straightforward approach. By noon, drafts of documents were ready. A cease and desist for slander, misrepresentation, unauthorized use of funds, and a property reassignment filing that stripped my parents of verbal claims over the beach condo. Tiffany slid the paperwork before me. "They'll try to call your bluff," she warned. Smiled. "They already did. That banquet was the bluff." An hour later, a process server confirmed delivery. Just like that, the family celebration morphed into a financial reckoning. That night, I received a voicemail from my mother, tearful, incoherent, and accusatory. "You're destroying us over what? A misunderstanding. You're always so dramatic." Dramatic, a term often used to silence daughters while they pay the bills. "If you follow through with this, people will talk. The church, the neighborhood, your father's reputation." It had always come down to appearance, the enduring illusion of unity, far removed from reality. I let the voicemail remain unanswered, focusing instead on something more significant that arrived the next morning. Confirmation from my accountant. Subject: account transfer confirmed, beach condo title finalized. It was legally complete. The condo, an assumed cornerstone of their retirement, a symbol of their social standing, was now permanently detached from their financial portfolio, and the taxes they had dodged were filed with interest. Tiffany quickly emailed me, asking if I wanted to take it further. Without hesitation, I agreed. Full audit starting with a family trust. I wanted to trace every dollar's journey since 2017. They hadn't merely called me a beggar. They had built their entire lifestyle upon my sacrifices. Now it was time to charge them for the chairs they never offered. The trust audit uncovered staggering details. $18,700 withdrawn the week I graduated, labeled emergency repairs, but truly a kitchen renovation for Victoria. $9,000 designated for education that funded front-row concert tickets and spa weekends for my mother. $34,000 channeled into my father's vintage Mustang restoration, a car he once described as a reward for raising responsible children. They had drained that account dry, yet had the audacity to call me a beggar. "Is this criminal?" I asked Tiffany. "It can be," she responded cautiously. "But I didn't want jail time. I wanted accountability." So we filed a motion requesting financial recompense and documentation of trust misuse, allowing them 30 days to respond or settle privately. That's when the mask finally slipped. I received a text from my mother. "I'm scared, Sylvia. Please don't ruin the family over money. We'll make it right." I contemplated it for a while. There was no apology or acknowledgement, merely fear, the only language they truly understood. I replied with a single line. "Ruin. You're misinterpreting ruin as reveal." The following day, Victoria's Instagram saw a post featuring a filtered sunset captioned with sentiments of how some people only show up when money's involved. I refrained from commenting. They could say whatever they liked online, but in court everything needed proof, every signature could be traced, and every dollar had to be accounted for. Suddenly, the daughter they dismissed as dramatic had turned into the authority they now had to respond to. On day 22, their lawyer reached out. His tone terse and his language desperate. proposing a private settlement of $50,000 in restitution without any admission of wrongdoing, alongside a mutual non-disclosure agreement. Tiffany chuckled as she read it. They're trying to patch the cracks before anyone sees the real issue. But I wasn't after money. What I sought was a record, proof that I wasn't just the black sheep but the scapegoat, the silent benefactor, the unpaid lifeline. We declined the settlement. By day 25, my father broke his silence, arriving at my office. The business he'd once dismissed as my side gig, now home to 27 employees across 2 states. Standing in the doorway, hat in hand, he seemed to struggle beneath his pride. "You've made your point," he said, "but you're about to ruin us. Are you proud of that?" Looking at him, the man who once publicly celebrated Victoria as the real success story, I answered calmly, "No, I'm not proud. I'm exhausted. Tired of funding your lives while being written out of your legacy." He tried to speak, but I raised my hand. "You called me a beggar." So I stopped giving. Suddenly, everyone has remembered my worth. No apology or tears followed. He simply placed a folded blank check on my desk. I pushed it back toward him. "This wasn't about your money. It was about mine." Once he left, I checked my email and found a message from the court system regarding trust disbursement fraud. Preliminary hearing scheduled for 3 weeks later. This time they'd have to face the music, not for celebration but to answer. News of the hearing quickly trickled through the family like a ruptured pipe, quietly at first, then flooding every group chat I was no longer part of. My cousin texted me to say everyone was in a frenzy about the court date, which confirmed what I suspected. They didn't think I'd follow through. They were accustomed to silence and shame, believing the one they pushed aside would quietly keep the peace while they indulged. But this time I wasn't the help. I was the witness. Tiffany and I meticulously prepared everything: timelines, account statements, and screenshots showing how I had been asked to lend them money, just this once. The eve of the hearing brought a message from Victoria, her first contact since the banquet. "If you go through with this, I swear I'll never forgive you." No apology, no denial, just a threat, as if my peace hinged on her consent. I didn't respond because some people aren't after reconciliation. They want reinstatement of the version of you who remained silent. On the day of the court hearing, I walked into the sterile courtroom feeling unexpectedly composed. My parents sat across the aisle, backs straight, alongside a lawyer obsessed with checking his watch. The judge posed straightforward questions, which Tiffany answered with solid statistics. Charts projected how condo payments had originated from my LLC, detailing how the trust had been exploited for personal luxuries masquerading as family needs. My parents' attorney objected, pleading informal arrangements, suggesting this was simply a misunderstanding exaggerated. The judge was unyielding and turned to me. "What outcome are you seeking, Miss Leo?" Standing, I replied with poise. "Truth on paper, that's all. Let reality and the record align." She nodded in agreement. With that, I became more than a mere footnote in their financial narrative. I was its headline. The courtroom fell silent without need for escorts or force. They didn't approach me after the hearing. No calls or letters came my way, no desperate pleas to reconcile, just silence, the kind that lingers when a performance concludes and the lights dim. The verdict wasn't criminal. No handcuffs or sensational headlines, but it was binding. The court mandated restitution of the misused funds back into the trust, permanently assigning the condo's title to me, severing my parents' access to assets they had not earned. Elegant justice, Tiffany called it. I referred to it as balance. Weeks went by with my phone remaining blissfully quiet, no emergencies or guilt-laden requests for help. Then one envelope slipped under my door. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a single photograph from the banquet, everyone dressed to the nines, clinking glasses under crystal chandeliers. In the blurred background, unmistakably, I was captured mid-departure. On the back someone had written, "This was the moment it all fell apart." I recognized Victoria's penmanship instantly, the familiar slant that had scrawled countless IOUs over the years. I held it for what felt like an eternity before depositing it into my shredder. What had truly disintegrated wasn't family but the illusion of it, the facade they created with my funds, my silence, and my desperate longing to belong. As that illusion burned away, what emerged wasn't destruction. It was freedom. That day, I created a new folder labeled Leo Foundation, establishing a grant for first-generation women striving to finance their education without family support, funded initially by a condo sale, mine. 6 months later, I hadn't had any direct contact with my parents or Victoria. Our relationship had ended on an unspoken agreement. Sometimes, the healthiest way to resolve family matters is to maintain a distance equal to the commitment I once gave to their financial stability. Before I go, here's a bonus for sticking around. If you enjoy learning and growing like I do, you need to explore audiobooks. I have an exclusive deal with Audible where your first month is entirely free, granting you access to over 500,000 titles at no cost. All the details are in the description. Don't miss out.